Good morning everyone in my Back to Basics group. I hope you're enjoying the posts and the little videos and everything I'm putting on for you and having a go at some of the exercises. I'd love to hear what people think or any comments. Please let me know. One thing that came up in the group, someone had mentioned breathing the other week, and so I thought I would do a couple of posts and give you a bit of information about the breathing in Pilates. Sorry, I've just got something in my eye, typical, isn't it? That's it. See clearly now? Right, breathing. It's one of the hardest things in Pilates to get. And over my years and years of teaching Pilates, I think nearly everyone has said to me, but I don't get the breathing. I don't understand when I'm meant to breathe or what I'm meant to be doing. And it is really, really hard. The main thing I would say for beginners or people who are starting out with Pilates is the main thing to remember is don't hold your breath. You've got to remember to just breathe, even if it's at the wrong time and it doesn't, you've got to breathe. Don't hold your breath. That won't help you at all. All right. So my tip number one is just breathe. There's so much to think about when you're learning Pilates when it's new. You're listening to the cues of the teacher, working out what she or he means. You're trying to remember what your arms and legs are doing. You're trying to remember the position of your neutral spine and to hold in your tummy muscles and to draw your shoulders down and all of these things. And then, the breathing is like another thing on top of that. There is a lot to remember. In my classes, I tend to just repeat myself constantly, because as soon as you start thinking, oh, I've got to remember my tummy, I've got to pull it in, brace my tummy, pull that belt in, then invariably you forget something else. Or whilst you think, right arm, left leg, you then forget something else. So I constantly repeat and go over things just to remind you what you're aiming for is for that movement, including the breathing, to become automatic. But that takes practice and that takes time. So the breathing is the hardest thing and one of the last things I think to get. So you think about your exercise, you think about your technique, and then the breathing will come. Basically in Pilates, we do what we call lateral breathing, and I'll explain that a bit more in a minute. We breathe in through the nose and then ideally out through the nose as well, or the mouth if that's more comfortable for you. But breathing in through the nose and out through the nose or mouth. Okay. The reason breath is important, and I'll talk to you a bit more about this over the week as well, is it helps oxygenate our blood. It helps get oxygen in. We're exercising. Our muscles need the oxygen. They will work far better aerobically when they've got the oxygen. And so deep breaths gets more oxygen into the body and allows those muscles to work more efficiently. Sometimes when you feel tired and you start yawning a lot, you think, oh, I'm yawning a lot. It's often because we're actually not breathing properly and we're not getting enough oxygen in. And the yawn is actually a way of getting more oxygen into the body because we haven't been breathing deeply enough to get enough oxygen in, and often that's why we feel tired. So if you start yawning a lot, it might be because you're doing very shallow breathing and you need to just spend a few moments taking that breath a bit deeper. Again, with Pilates, it's not all about just what you do whilst you're doing Pilates in that hour class or half an hour at home or 10 minutes home or whatever. It's about using everything you learn in Pilates through everything you do. So when you're driving and walking and shopping or whatever you're doing, obviously you're breathing. You've got to breathe, but it's breathing properly, as Joseph Pilates himself would say. He often said that the majority of civilization do not breathe properly, haven't been taught how to breathe properly. It's obviously essential for life. If you don't breathe, there's a bit of a problem. So it's really one of the key principles of Pilates. It's so important, but so difficult. The breathing also helps you with your pace and rhythm of your movement. So again, as I teach you, there we are, Daisy, thank you very much. Sorry, that's my daughter in the background. it helps with the rhythm and pacing of your movement. In Pilates, everything is very controlled because that's the nature of Pilates. And Joseph Pilates felt very much that the breathing, the timing of your breath was important in order to maximise how effective those movements were. Which is why the breath, especially when Joseph Pilates did all the exercises, is very specific when you breathe in and when you breathe out. And I do tips of breathing in our classes as well, and we gradually learn that, you know, week by week. When you breathe, I'll just move back a little bit so you can see my rib cage. It's not just, we think perhaps about just the lungs or breathing with the lungs. It's actually breath. It involves an awful lot of muscles. As you breathe in and the rib cage expands, you're working every single muscle that is attached to it. You're working the chest, the pectorals here, you're working across the back, you're working all the intercostal muscles that are between the ribs. As the rib cage expands and closes, you're working those as well. The rib cage doesn't just go out to the side, it goes forwards a little bit and backwards a bit. So in Pilates, we primarily focus on sideways breathing or lateral breathing, as I said at the beginning, but it's about, you know, you will, if you're doing it properly, the rib cage will fill out in all directions, or sometimes in Pilates it's called thoracic breathing as well. You might hear people say that. It's in the thorax. What a lot of us do, if we're not thinking about it, is we can get very lazy with our breathing, and we then breathe with our belly, and it's yeah, belly breathing, and you just let your tummy go out. Now in Pilates, obviously, if you're engaging those lower abdominals and supporting your back, you can't breathe in there. And I'll show you a little tip on that later on in the week. Some people breathe with their shoulders, and it's very, obviously that's exaggerated, but using your shoulders. You want to keep your shoulders down because you want to keep this alignment through the neck and the upper body. So the only place left to breathe is the lungs, which is what they were made for, and the ribs. And it's important to use the capacity of the lungs, maximise that capacity. You know, long distance runners, singers, people that will do lots of breathing exercises to work all these muscles to get better breath for their, you know, to be able to perform or run or whatever it is they're doing better. They will have a better lung capacity. Divers, that's a good example, you know, will do training with their breathing so they have a better lung capacity. And this is what we can work on, and you will feel better for it. So we breathe into the rib cage, and there's some little tips I can give you as we're doing this. So your first one, and no one's joined me yet, maybe it's too early on a Tuesday morning, but if you're watching this on replay, have a go. And have a look in the mirror if you want to as well. So you place your hands on your rib cage. We're going to, and shoulders are down. You're going to breathe out, and as you breathe out, I want you to try and breathe out every last drop of air there is left in your in your lungs. So you breathe out, and at the bottom of that exhalation, where there's nothing else left to come out, you place your hands on your ribs, so just yeah, on your rib cage here, just above the belly button, below the chest, fingertips pointing together. Okay, so I will just again, because I've been busy talking, so I'm going to breathe out and then breathe in. Now I'm hoping you can see a little gap there between my fingers. They're touching again. Inhale, I'm filling the ribcage outside, my fingertips are pulling apart. And then coming together as I exhale. I'm not lifting the shoulders. Okay, I'm hoping you can see that. So as you breathe in, you've got to take the breath all the way down to the bottom of the lungs, which is near the waist. Imagine that breath filling up in the lungs, all the way up to the top, right up here near the collarbone, so it's full of fresh oxygen. And then get rid of all of that, all the waste air, carbon dioxide and so on, that you don't need as you exhale. Joseph Pilates felt that, again, through our breath, and this has since been, you know, discussed, researched and so on, that through our breath, as we exhale, we get rid of a lot of toxins. And you don't want to be becoming stale. If you're just shallow breathing, it sits in the lungs. So you need to do a full inhale breath and then a full exhale breath and get rid of all that air, so then you can take fresh oxygen back in. Another little thing, and this is why you needed your tape measure, is to use a tape measure. And again, if you're really interested in this, you might do it a few times. You might, over the course, you know, of 6 months or so on, if you do Pilates regularly, you will notice a difference in the measurements. So pop a tape measure again round sort of bra strap line, okay, under the chest. And what we're going to do is we're going to exhale, measure, have a look at where we are on the tape measure, and then inhale, let the tape measure slide, and then see the difference, okay? So I'm going to just exhale. So I'll do a little inhale breath first. And then I'm going to exhale every last drop. Okay, I'm going to take a little look at the numbers, see where I am. Okay, then I'm going to inhale rather. Let that tape measure slide. Okay, now that's about a difference of about 5 centimetres between my inhale and my exhale. So have a go. I never did this when I first started Pilates, so I don't know if that's that's good or not. But you could do that a few times with the tape measure, and again, we can, you know, you can do it again once you've done Pilates for a little while. But that's the sort of thing. Again, it shows you how much movement there is through the rib cage. So I'll just show you again. So I'm holding on. I'm going to inhale. Sorry, exhale. Take a little note of where I was, and then inhale. Let the tape measure slide. Okay, yeah, about the same, got about the same. So you could do it a couple of times and check. But again, it's because the rib cage is filling out. If you're breathing with the belly, that's not going to happen. Okay, if you're breathing with the shoulders, that's not going to happen. If you haven't got a tape measure, but you want to get some sort of measurement, use a band, a scarf, a bit of string or anything, and you can do a similar thing. So again, you can exhale, take a little note of where you are on the band, inhale and let it slide, okay? And you can see then the difference in how far that rib cage has moved. So have a go at those. Again, any questions, come back to me, let me know. If you've watched it, if you've watched this all the way through and stayed with me, well done, thank you very much. No one's joined me, but that doesn't matter. Watch it back on replay. I know it's summer holidays and everyone's busy. I've bribed my children to keep quiet whilst I was doing this. And I'll check back in with you later on in the week and give you some other little tips about breathing. So let's have a little think. Let's just, what can we have? I'd like a little code word, so if anyone's watched this all the way through, they can put it down. Let's have, trying to think of something a little bit different. Let's, oh dear, my brain's gone dead. Right, I'm going to make a decision. I wanted to do something with breathing, but I don't want to do breathing because that's too obvious. Oh, let's have a look. Let's do, I don't know. I just can't think. Intercostal muscles. Is that a bit long? Is that a bit boring? Can anyone spell it? Yeah, let's have intercostal muscles. Let's see who can spell it. Intercostal muscles, they're between the ribs in your rib cage. They're the ones that are working along with your pecs. Everything else is working as you're doing that really nice deep breathing. So try and focus on that deep breath. Make it longer, make it slower throughout the day. As you're breathing. And before I come on live next time, I will think of a code word that I can use so I can see who has who's stuck with me and listened to this all the way through. Have a great day, everyone. Breathe deeply, breathe in and out. Feel that rib cage working, and you'll feel better for it. Have a lovely oxygen-filled day, and I could have used oxygen, couldn't I? Didn't think of that. Never mind. You can put both down if you want to, and I will check in with you again later this week. Speak to you soon.